The email arrived at 6:58 a.m., subject line, Urgent Executive Meeting, 9 a.m. I didn't think much of it at first. After 10 years at Heliodyne Systems, surprise meetings were just part of the chaos of innovation. We were on the verge of finalizing the SolCore patent, a clean energy process that could power entire cities using a fraction of the cost of lithium. My team had built it from scratch. But when I entered the conference room that morning, something felt off. No one made eye contact. The CEO, Derek Hall, sat at the head of the table, perfectly calm, a cup of espresso in one hand and the company's legal advisor on his right. "Heather," he said, his voice smooth, "we're restructuring the R&D division." I smiled politely. I'd heard those words before. Restructuring usually meant budget shuffling, but then he slid an envelope across the table. "Your role is being eliminated, effective immediately." The room blurred for a moment. I blinked, trying to process. "I what? Derek, the SolCore patent?" He raised a hand, cutting me off. "All intellectual property developed during your tenure belongs to Heliodyne. You'll receive 3-month severance and a reference letter." It took everything in me not to laugh. 3 months' pay for 10 years of my life. So I smiled. A long, calm, practiced smile. "Thank you," I said. And I walked out with nothing but my coffee cup and a flash drive in my pocket. The same drive that would, 12 days later, make me worth $1.2 billion and ruin Derek Hall's empire overnight. The first 48 hours after the firing were a blur. Anger, disbelief, and then silence. I stayed in my apartment, staring at the city lights through the glass, my laptop glowing on the table beside an untouched cup of coffee. Every email, every file I'd written for Heliodyne Systems replayed in my mind like echoes. They hadn't just fired me, they'd erased me. On the third day, I opened my personal backup. A copy of SolCore's earliest drafts, models, and raw data. Not the final version, but the foundation. The one I had built, line by line, simulation by simulation. The patent wasn't just a formula. It was my handwriting on every algorithm, my initials in the test logs. And when I saw the metadata on the newest submission, the one Derek filed after firing me, I froze. The official inventor listed wasn't me. It was him. He'd stripped my name out completely. I scrolled through the documents, heart pounding, realizing that every update after my firing had been a rushed attempt to push me out of my own creation. And worse, he'd sold partial rights to a holding company overseas, disguising it under a shell corporation. That's when the anger turned into focus. He thought I'd disappear quietly. He didn't know I still had the pre-patent version, with timestamps and version histories older than the final filing. And those, under intellectual property law, made me not just the inventor, but the rightful owner of SolCore's core process. All I needed was proof, a legal mind, and a buyer with deeper pockets than Heliodyne. By day 5, I had all three. By day 8, I was sitting in the rooftop restaurant of the Regal Meridian, watching the CEO of NovaCore Technologies, Heliodyne's fiercest rival, sip espresso like it was a power ritual. He was younger than I expected, with the calm arrogance of someone who'd built empires from other people's mistakes. "Ms. Lane," he said smoothly, "your message was intriguing. You claim to have the foundation for SolCore?" I smiled, calm but deliberate. "I don't claim, Mr. Yu, I built it." He leaned forward, curious now. "Heliodyne's golden egg? The self-stabilizing solar lattice?" I nodded. "The algorithm they're parading as theirs is built on my data. Pre-patent, pre-registration. They fired me and erased my name from the filings, but I still own the original architecture. Time-stamped, documented, traceable." Yu's eyes glinted. "You realize what you're offering me could trigger a legal storm?" "I'm not offering you trouble," I said. "I'm offering you a clean asset. The verified precursor design that Heliodyne can't claim once the IP audit begins. You'll own the future of SolCore, before they can." He didn't speak for a while. Then he smiled, slow and deliberate. "What do you want?" I slid a small folder across the table. 1.2 billion, exclusive rights, and a non-disclosure clause that keeps my name out of every press release. Yu raised a brow. You don't want credit? I looked out over the skyline, the same skyline where Derek's office tower stood like a smug monolith against the clouds. I don't want fame, I said. I want silence. And closure. He tapped the folder twice. You'll have both. As I left the restaurant, my reflection in the glass doors almost smiled back. Heliodine had erased me, but they'd just made me worth $1 billion to the competition. And in 4 days, they'd find out exactly what that meant. 4 days later, Heliodine's boardroom was in chaos. Emails leaked, investors panicked, and the company's valuation plummeted by $3.4 billion in a single morning. I sat in my apartment, barefoot, coffee in hand, watching Derek, the man who'd fired me, on CNBC, pretending not to sweat under the stage lights. Heliodine remains the sole owner of Soulcore Technology, he said, his voice tight around every syllable. Any rumors of IP transfer are categorically false. Rumors. That was a good word for it, because technically the transaction hadn't been public yet. But the NDAs didn't prevent market whispers, especially when those whispers came from analysts who'd suddenly gone quiet after meeting with Novacore. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then came his voice. Nice move, Evelyn. I froze. Derek. His tone wasn't angry. It was calm. Too calm. I underestimated you, he continued. 12 days. You move faster than my legal team. What do you want, Derek? I said flatly. Oh, nothing much, he said. Just to congratulate you, and maybe remind you of one little problem. My silence invited him to continue. You used company equipment while developing that prototype, didn't you? Heliodine servers, lab hardware, proprietary code, that makes it ours. Even your time-stamped design. I didn't blink. You're bluffing, a chuckle. Am I? Because I have your workstation logs, the same ones you thought I'd deleted when I fired you. Turns out I keep things, for sentimental reasons. For the first time in days, my heart skipped. He had something. Or at least he thought he did. So here's my offer, he said softly. You call Novacore, you tell them the deal's off, return the files, walk away quietly, and maybe, I'll forget this ever happened. I laughed. Once. Sharp. You really don't get it, do you? Oh, I get it, he said, voice dropping. You want to ruin me? But this is chess, Evelyn. You're a pawn who got lucky. You don't beat kings by moving fast. You beat them by surviving the endgame. The call cut. For a moment, I just stood there, the city humming below, his words echoing like static in my chest. But what Derek didn't know was that I'd already predicted his endgame 2 days earlier, and I'd left something behind in those workstation logs. Something he'd never see coming. I didn't sleep that night, not because of fear, but because I was finally done being afraid of him. For years, I'd built systems that predicted human failure. I'd modeled markets, mapped risk, and forecasted collapse. Now, all that data science had a single target. Derek Hale, CEO of Heliodine. At 3 a.m., I opened a private terminal, a backup no one at Heliodine even knew existed. Buried deep in those workstation logs he claimed to have was a digital tripwire, a self-executing file I'd planted the week before he fired me. It wasn't malicious. It was simply truth, time-stamped, encrypted, and immutable. Every development note, every draft, every late-night commit, all uploaded to my personal ledger, blockchain verified. The moment he accessed those same logs to blackmail me, the system had already triggered an alert to Novacore's legal division. And to 3 financial journalists I'd quietly fed breadcrumbs to. By sunrise, the story hit the wire. Heliodine's CEO accused of forgery, IP fraud, and retaliation against whistleblower. Derek's calm? Perfect mask shattered on live television by noon. The board announced an internal ethics investigation. Investors fled. Heliodine's stock plummeted 48% in a single trading day. Meanwhile, Novacore finalized the patent acquisition, transferring $1.2 billion into my holding trust, a number so absurd it didn't feel real. Until I saw it glowing on the secure banking screen, I didn't celebrate. I just exhaled, a breath that felt like it had been trapped for years. 3 weeks later, an unmarked envelope arrived at my apartment, No return address, just a single card inside. 5 words in Derek's handwriting. "You were never the pawn." I smiled. Because he was right. I wasn't. I'd been the player the whole time. And as I closed my laptop that night, the city lights flickering outside my window, I finally understood the game I'd been playing all along. It wasn't about revenge. It was about freedom, and this time, I'd won.